Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and today I'll be doing my late review of The Crew. Don't have a disc or anything, again, it was a rental. So in The Crew, you play as Alex, who is one of the best street racers out there, and he witnesses the murder of his brother and is then framed for it by a dirty FBI agent. Yeah, it's kind of generic, I'm not gonna argue. After 5 years, he's given the opportunity to get revenge on the man who framed him, as well as the man who killed his brother and took over his brother's crew. But like any good game like this, he can only do so by going undercover. Along the way, he meets a colorful cast of characters who become his crew and help him take down other far less colorful characters. Let's face it, the story isn't Shakespeare, it's not bad, it holds up pretty well. The voiceover work is really good in this game, and the lead character is done by Troy Baker, who I honestly think is trying to be the new Nolan North. The rest of the voiceover cast does a really good job, and that is important in a game like this when the story is as generic as it is, as well as at times it takes itself a little too seriously, and if they weren't putting in the effort, it would really take you out of the game. Now as for gameplay and controls, this is a car PG, driving RPG. As a driving game, it should have a good number of cars, and this one does. I feel like it could have had a few more, and I feel like there were some that were just really, really silly and clearly there just for product placement purposes. I'm referring to the Mini Cooper as well as the Ford Focus. Let's face it, it's a Mini Cooper. There are engines in this game that are bigger than that car. I personally would have been happier had they included some more classic muscle cars in this game, but hey, I wasn't a developer. Now, each of the cars has different stats, and they are not all created equally, but they do tend to level themselves out in some way or another. There are 6 car specs in the game: Factory, Street, Perf, Dirt, Raid, and Circuit. Factory is obviously non-modded, and it's pretty crappy, whereas Street, Perf, and Circuit, they are all meant for street racing, basically. Then you've got Dirt, which is for dirt track, and you've got Raid, which is for general off-road. Not every car can be every spec, but there are a few that can. And you earn plenty of money to buy cars. I had 5 by the time I wrapped up the game. Not that I really needed 5, I just kind of liked those cars, so I figured why the hell not buy them. Now, as for the game world, it's pretty much a miniaturized US. Fortunately, there is a fast travel system. Races take place in specific cities that are key to the story. Scattered across the game world, there are satellite stations which help you find the challenges, as well as hidden car parts to build secret cars. Completing the challenges that you find is a way to get better car parts than you can buy, so it's obviously a good idea to go around and do some of them. Now, this isn't just a car PG, it's a multiplayer car PG, and there are other drivers occupying the same world you are, even when you are just doing single player stuff. And it's not so bad because they generally leave you alone. And when you enter a mission, you have the option of either doing it solo or inviting other players to do it co-op. While you're driving around the country, you can form crews and they can tag along on races with you, but for the most part, I found that most crews don't bother to join your races, and joining a crew really doesn't do anything to help you. As for the RPG bits, your character ranks up, so does your car. As your character levels up, you unlock the different specs for your cars. And the way you level up your character and your car is by completing races and challenges to unlock parts, get XP, and get cash. Every time you find a new story member of your crew, that unlocks new perks that you can access in order to make your car grip better, have better nitrous, etc., etc. As for the controls for your car, I think they worked pretty well. I don't play a ton of racing games, so I can't do a lot of comparison, but compared to games I've played in the past, I feel that these controls were slightly better than some. I will say, however, some of the physics in this game were kinda weird, especially when you were crashing. Your car would do some really, really weird things. As for the graphics, I am actually fairly impressed. It's still not the next Order 1886 in quality, but it did look really good. You can damage your car, and it makes a notable visual difference. It doesn't really affect your driving all that much, but it still doesn't look as good as the damage you do in like Burnout, but it does look better than Gran Turismo since you can't actually damage your car in Gran Turismo. When all said and done, I did enjoy playing the game, despite the fact I did really suck at the dirt racing as well as the raid driving. Ugh. Now, I mentioned earlier at times the story took itself a little too seriously. For me, the time that it did that was at the very, very end. I'm not going to spoil the cutscene, but the very end cutscene was a little too serious for its own good. I'm not saying the entire game was tongue-in-cheek, but there's being serious and then there's being way too serious, and the final cutscene hit that way too serious mark. If you really love racing games, I would recommend picking this game up. If you're like me and you're only casually into racing games, then rent it, don't buy it. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, please subscribe. Have a good one.